right, you guys, how did I get in this room? Another episode, and this time digging into some country roots with Mr. George Ducas.
Let's keep it in Texas. We are Houston-based, of course.
That's right.
Mr. George Ducas, he did not disappoint.
No, he did not. And you guys have a little something in common.
We do have a little something in common. You know, both of us obviously shared the same high school, the high school Kincaid. So I didn't have the opportunity to ask whether he's purple or gold. I was purple, so I don't know if I can even be friends with him. If
I just brought it up because I knew he'd gone to Kincaid.
Yes,
so that was
I know. I never
kind
get
of a little
information. You just kind of like throw me to the wolves, and I learned it.
So I thought that was a nice little thing to do. So you start doing a little prep for the show. I've already been familiar with George's music. What did you think?
So to be honest, and I did share this with George, I wasn't super familiar with his songs because he's not only a performer, but he's also a songwriter. So he's got like this co-writer, you know, written for Garth Brooks and worked with Trisha Yearwood and everything. But we bonded quickly, as you know. I got more prep time because I got to put on more lipstick, and his song is Lipstick Promises.
You have a very loose definition of bonding, by the way.
Yeah, loose.
We've established that.
We do.
Yeah, but he's super sweet guy, and I only really met him in person recently because we have a mutual friend, and he was like, my friend Mark Sullivan was like, "Oh, you have to get George on. You have to get George on," and I'm glad we did. Because we found out a lot about.
Well, we missed him when he was in Houston that last time. So
yeah, but he's going to do some more touring, so hopefully we can get him. But I like the fact that it's that kind of old, more late '80s, early '90s kind of country, especially Texas styled, which I like a lot. He dips into a little bit of that kind of Bakersfield sound. He just worked with Mr. Pete Anderson, who's like, you know, one of my all-time favorite.
I love that you're even sharing that you enjoy country music, because I feel like between you and I, you're not a huge country music fan.
Well,
so
you know what?
I'm just going to put it out there.
We'll talk about that after the interview. Introduce it, Margot.
All right. Without further ado, the George Ducas, country superstar.
You worked with one of my all-time guitar player, producer that I am obsessed by, Pete Anderson.
No kidding, right on.
Oh my God, we could go on for hours.
This guy obsesses for everything.
Talk about that collaboration because
Go ahead.
I said, talk about that collaboration.
It was fantastic. I just in the mail at my doorstep just before we got on, got a package from Vintage Guitar magazine. They interviewed both of us, both Pete and myself, and I was just reading it before we started texting about where's the link or whatever. And he was so great. I mean, we met by virtue of my then road guitar player, and now still sometimes road guitar player, Mark Salcida out of San Antonio. Fantastic man and fantastic musician. We played the last show before the pandemic. Mark and we played Tulsa. Well, our whole band, me and my guys played hard rock in Tulsa. And afterward, my bass player wanted to do some gambling. So I was like, I don't want to lose all my money. So I got a drink, and Mark doesn't even drink. So we just walked around the casino floor talking music and watching my bass player make bank somehow. I don't know how those guys do it. But anyway, he was like, "Man, have you ever worked with Pete Anderson?" And I was like, "No, but I've always been an admirer, just like you, Ruben." And he was like, "Well, I worked with him for a while a few years back. I was in a rock band, and Pete wanted to produce." Sorry, we have a siren going on. Pete wanted to produce, and so we went out there and started to make a record. We never finished the record, but my wife and I became great friends. And I got his assistant's email address if you want to talk to him. And so I filed it away, and then on came the pandemic. That was in like the tail end of 2019. Pandemic hits, 3 months into the pandemic, darkest days of the pandemic. I'm like, I'm going to email Pete Anderson's assistant, and I do it. And this is sort of a long answer. Sorry, but we could edit it, right? And he messages me back, "Hey, George, this is Kevin. Pete and I checked out your music. Pete's going to call you Friday at 5. And this is, by now, it's like May. of 2020, a horrible time in our in the world, right? And I'm like, sure, Pete Anderson's going to call me Friday at 5. I mean, I knew this man's records not just from the songs on the radio, his collaborations and productions with Dwight, but also Lucinda Williams, Jackson Brown, you know, of Running on Empty fame and so much more. Pete's worked with Buck Owens and Roy Orbison. Like, I know all this just because I'm a music geek, right? Especially at that time in my life. And I'm like, sure, Pete's going to call me Friday at 5 in the middle of the dark ages. And sure enough, Friday 5, bring, hey, George, Pete Anderson. I'm like, what in the... And so we start to talk, and it was a 2-hour side-splitting series 2 conversation, and we just hit it off. Like, we were swapping road stories, talking about music. How would you make a record if we were going to make a record? Like, send me some songs, blah, blah. We had the best time. I had literally, I couldn't believe it. And I mean, I was expecting something very different. Like, you meet a lot of heroes in this business. You're like, most of them maybe measure up, but a lot of them fall short and don't quite measure up. And sometimes it's better not to meet them at all. Pete was like, it was like I found my long lost uncle, or yeah, my father passed away in Houston a few months ago. It's almost like God replaced him with Pete, like Pete's like father/uncle figure. And so we did all of our pre-production during the pandemic by Zoom, just like this. Pete's like with a guitar in LA, and I got a guitar in my man cave in Nashville. Okay, play me this song. I like this one, because I would send him songs, Dropbox. Play it in this key. Play it at 136 beats per minute. I had to download, an app that would, stick a pod in my ear and play it at that tempo. Play it at 142. Play it in B flat. Like, we would just, that was our pre-production, like by Zoom, and then we would yuck it up and tell stories again, like all throughout. And it wasn't all music. It was like everything from Mexican music, Mexican like taco trucks, to mariachi music, country music, yucking it up, talking family, talking, yeah, the road stories, everything it was just back and forth, constant. It was very natural. And I'm really proud of the record we made ultimately. And we've already got 2 tracks recorded for the next record. So, long answer to your question, but yeah, one. I was just like you. I was a fan as well, and still am.
Well, there's nothing, I think there's nothing cooler than getting to work with people that you're fans of. It does seem to always be a running theme with these incredible guests that we've had is, you throw yourself out there to the wolves of the music industry and
Right.
aspire, you dream about some of these like mentors that you'll get to work with. And it's so cool to actually see that this is an industry that really does treat everybody that's trying hard like family. It's very different than I think maybe the film industry and some of these others. I think that's a special thing, and that he came in sort of like an angel, and then that probably creates this really great energy between the two of you.
Anyway,
Ruben and I were sharing something before this, how, and being in the country music world, there's that age-old saying that if you play a country music song backwards, you get the dog back, the house back, and the girl back.
Oh yeah, and your mom doesn't get run over by the train.
Doesn't get run over by. That's awesome. Well, hey,
mama.
Let's talk songwriting for a second, because I'm not going to ask you how many songs you've written over the years, because that list is probably the longer.
How many?
Longer than. I'm not going to ask you that. But what I am going to ask you is, whether you're co-writing or writing for your own music or writing with Pete, whatever, how do you know when a song is done?
I gotta walk away from it and come back to it. And if there's nothing else I'd want to do to it, then it's done. I mean, I'm really as much an editor or more as I am a writer. Like, I will uh, it's not when other people tell me it's done. It's when I'm happy with it because I know I'm a tough critic. Like I would rather not finish a song than finish a mediocre song. I don't want my name on it. I honestly am that way, and I've always kind of been that way, even before I had a track record of any kind. You know, like I only want to write something that I feel like is right and I'm super proud of. You know, but other guys approach it. Guys way more successful than me from on the songwriting side, at least. I've had a nice hybrid of a career. But other guys that have been major hit songers, they just churn out. It's like a widget factory. They just get their name on as many songs as they can possibly get their name. And they've even told me that. Like I had a #1 party for a song I wrote with Sarah Evans, or not with, but for Sarah Evans, the country singer. And at the #1 party at BMI down on Music Row, you know, they kind of celebrate you. They give you a trophy of some sort. It's like, you know, when you're 6 years old in soccer and everybody gets a trophy.
So
But
many.
it's not really. It is an honor. It is an honor. Trying to be funny, but the soccer trophy culture, it does sort of feel like that. Like you know, you come up and accept it. But it's a proud moment, like your first #1 song. But I had a writer come up to me who has written many #1 songs, and he said, George, you made it now. You just got to get your name on as many songs as you can. It's just a game. It's law of averages. I'm like, what? That's so odd because it's so opposite the way I do it. Like I'll sit there and ruminate over the idea before we even agree to write the song. Like, because it's way easier to write a good song when the idea is good. You can't, here's what I say about that. Like, if you start with a bad idea, it's much more difficult to write a good song. And the axiom for me is you can't polish a turd. To start with a bad idea, it's
That
hard
is
to make it a
so
great song.
true.
I know that's not very sexy. I
No.
know. But,
Look,
yeah.
I agree. I could not agree
I
more.
think that sums up our show.
It does. I don't even know
You're not going to ask me about the
that.
songs on the. We don't want to talk about the songs on the record. I'm kind of rambling today.
Right now,
too.
we're not even talking about songs. We're talking
No,
about polishing turds, and
listen.
this is where we want.
Okay. So, hang on.
You are fantastic, y'all. I don't know why I didn't invite you guys to the Mucky Duck show.
Well, you told me about it, but remember, I couldn't do it that night. So,
oh, I did. Good. I
we
forgot.
had a thing.
I was around. I could have gone.
Okay, that's for the next step. When we have
he doesn't let me out.
When we do George part 2, we'll dig way into that.
Oh my gosh,
Ruben,
it was a pleasure meeting you at. Fill in the blank for me, because what was that? It was a guitar.
We were at the guitar show at Alligator.
It was a guitar show, right? Yeah. That was super cool. Like, how does Mark know about these things?
I have no idea, but I gave him some notes because Houston doesn't have a guitar show. We need one to return. We used to have a show. It's been gone for years. Dallas gets the love for their guitar show. Austin gets all the love for theirs. We should have one, but that's another episode. Don't get me started because I will hop on my soapbox. All right, so.
Oh, okay. We'll get on that offline.
Tell us about social media, though. I'm so curious. How do you use social media to further your career?
To manipulate your wonderful life. I'm so tired of it. I am so tired of it. And that's just being honest.
You'll just see how much I overpost.
Yeah. Oh, there's going to be overposting. Anyway, sorry. Continue. Sorry.
What's overposting?
Well, overposting.
So follow Margot, first of all, just at
Margot Hogan.
Yeah.
I'm doing it right now.
Yes. And in 10 minutes, you will know what overposting is.
All of my friends joke that they don't need to text me to see what I'm doing. All they need to do is log in and literally live vicariously. I did not. So for me, I don't know. This show is my career. So I feel like it's important to show, what I'm doing because pics happen, right? So there's no way people would know that I'm interviewing George Ducas unless I share that. So I plan to share that, and I'll edit it, and I'll do all the things. But for musicians, you guys have to build your image as well, don't you?
You do. And I get people complaining. They're like, do more personal stuff. Like, do more personal stuff. Everything you post is like artwork or video of this or that show. Or like, I don't want to talk. I don't want to have like a video or a picture of me and the dogs or whatever, or a workout posting. Like, no, I don't. Or what you ate for lunch that day. Like, that is just, I'm so not, it is, I'm just done. And TikTok's even worse. Like, I absolutely hate TikTok. I have it on my phone, but I would have to probably reload it because I never go on it. Now, I have someone who helps me and sometimes posts some stuff all across Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube all at the same time. Like, she's real good at doing that stuff. She's got some program or whatever that does that. And it's well worth what I pay her. And because I'm so not about it. Sometimes I'll think of a good idea, and Instagram's my go-to, and that's when I'll actually enjoy posting something myself. But it's so rare that it's not effective if you don't post more often, as you know, probably, which is part of the reason why you post more often. So Maggie does that for me, but it's not like I don't give her a lot of fresh content that's actually like real, get to know you, because I don't want necessarily people to get to know me on that level. Like,
Mystery.
That's
I
important.
like that. I
I'm
like
the
the
opposite
mystery.
of mysterious.
I think
They're all on the feed.
You're the opposite of mysterious.
yes, she is the op. After you start following her for a little while, then just text me. Just send me your bullet points.
You're gonna be like, that's
all right.
not
So,
with her.
George, buddy, thank you so much. We're short on time. So what I want
I
to do.
understand.
So our show is called "How Did I Get in This Room?" And the reason
text me your Instagram though. Okay, yeah.
Done.
How did I get in this room?
How did I get in this room? Because the last question we ask all of our guests is, in your career, what was that "How did I get in this room" moment? Was it writing with Garth Brooks, or was it, whatever, what was, or one of those moments where you were like, oh my God, how did I get in this room?
There have been many, but going back to the first one or two, I'm just going to do people do that?
Yeah.
Is that allowable? Do I have
Come
to
on.
pick one?
Do you?
All right. So getting signed to a record deal back in the day when you needed a record label actually to ever get anywhere, which isn't true now. Now you just need an investor with several $1,000,000, and a couple years later they'll hand him back several million less dollars than he handed them. But that's the old adage. Probably was playing in a smoky pool hall every Friday night. That's how I paid rent before I got signed as a writer and had a hit song, and then that helped fast track some things on the artist side. But eventually, playing in that pool hall on Friday night, like, I had at least two record label presidents come out, and this is a rough place. I mean, back in the days when literally there was neon and cigarette smoke, like you could smoke all night long right there, just Camels, just chain smoke it, pool hall, guys chasing girls, they serve beer by the quart, and then all of a sudden you got record label guys showing up with their bodyguards in limousines, like at this total dive. So that was kind of how did I get, and I knew who they were. Like, I knew those guys. They didn't get up front close and personal, but there they were back there by the bar where they served the quart beer. So I knew something was going right about that time. And the other "how did I get in this room" would have been my first couple of shows, because I went from playing that pool hall, and when I say playing, it was just me and one speaker up on a round cocktail table that I would put up there, and then my microphone, and just me, like, that's it. But I went from that to opening, going on tour opening shows for Alan Jackson, and the first couple of which were Dallas and Houston. And the Houston show was even more special, of course, because that's our hometown. And I went from when I was 12 years old going to see Willie Nelson at what was then the Summit, where the Rockets played and all the concerts came. I would go see Willie play there and wanted to go see other bands that my parents would let me go see. All of a sudden, I was playing the show, and I was opening for Alan Jackson at the Summit. You know, I wish it was still the Summit, by the way. But anyway, yeah, that was a definitely how did I get in this room moment.
Biggest takeaway from that interview?
My biggest takeaway is I love his hat.
Well, of course, he's rocking the Astros, so we love that.
Anytime a guest comes on our show and says y'all,
yeah,
and he's wearing an Astros hat, he's welcome.
And he's connected to Houston.
And connected to Houston.
And we love him.
So.
But we love all our guests.
We're a Houston show.
You know.
Houston based.
From Manchester to Nashville
Here we go.
to LA to New York, you know, we love all our guests.
We're global.
All right, so here's the deal.
Global and local.
Something that I loved about talking to George was, you know, his take on Nashville today, because we talked a little bit about, you know, the songwriting and the kind of music that comes out in Nashville today. And he was like, you know, I'm paraphrasing, of course, he doesn't feel that connected to what modern country we know as modern country. Mm-hmm. He feels like, you know, his bread and butter and the things that he loves are the things that, you know, got him a record deal in the first place, and he's tried to stay as true to that as possible. Sure,
and I think that makes sense, because I feel like, you know, I like country music more than you do, of course. I'm more welcome to various genres. You kind of stick to where you're comfortable, and I love that for you. But I think, you know, modern country, it's a little bit more hooky. And he kind of goes back to the forlorn storytelling.
Yeah,
I love sharing that
yeah.
joke that you know, if you play a country song backwards, you get the girl back, the dog back, and the house back. And he got a kick out of it. He got it right in the truck back. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and you get out of prison.
You get out of prison too. Yeah. Hopefully, I mean, I don't know where you live, but
and if you play heavy metal records backwards, you hear the voice of Satan.
Sure. Okay, I don't know where you want to go with that, but
that's well established.
Satan, well, like Devil went down to Georgia.
Well established.
Am I lying?
Am I lying?
Yes.
No. You've heard that before.
Yes.
Kara's heard that before.
Kara, what's your favorite country song?
My favorite country song?
Speak up. We can't hear you.
We're putting the producers.
What is it?
Dixie Chicks, Goodbye Earl.
Oh man, fantastic song.
That is a good one.
But they're the Chicks now.
They're not Dixie anymore.
So
I didn't know.
we were listening to it before. Okay, we're going to talk favorite country song.
Okay.
I love Willie Nelson so much. I can't even tell you. I moved to Houston from New York City because my parents moved down here, and I met a kicker in junior high. I had no idea what a kicker was.
What is a kicker?
Kickers wore boots and jeans and belt buckles and hats. And I met a guy by the name of Tim Swanson, and I was exotic because I was the New York kid. And they were like, hey, you like country music? And I'm like, I don't know what country music is. He goes, where do you live? I said, over there. He goes, I'm going to bring records to your house. And he brought this record, which was Willie Nelson and Family Live, and left it at my house. I have it to this day. And Tim, thank you for that. I know we have a short amount of time left, but George Ducas, again, what a great guest.
Yes.
He's got new music out, ladies and gentlemen. Please go check that out, and you won't be sorry, because, I mean, if you love, he's worked with Pete Anderson, who's worked with Dwight Yoakam. He's got a little bit of that Bakersfield sound. You know,
such a humble guy. I feel like
such a wonderful dude.
We're trying to keep the guests at the certain caliber that we started at, which was
interesting, and they tell us stuff behind the scenes.
Yes, and I think people are seeing that now. You know, we're including the kind of B-roll where they're still trying to find their lighting and still trying to figure out what they want to wear, and that's part of what makes our show special, I think.
You took a hard left turn.
What? I always go right. They always say, like, wait, hold on, left or right?
That was a point in the editorial meeting. Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Okay. We are getting wrapped, but yes, I really enjoyed George. Ducas. Can't wait for you to come back on tour now.
And we will
got
see
a couple
you.
shows.
Yeah, we'll come to see you.
We will come next time. Now we're going to make this show because
Yeah.
we're going to make time for us. We made time for you.
Absolutely. All right, coming up next episode, we have, because we kind of told people we were going to have Catherine.
Yep. We're going to keep in the Kincaid alum theme.
Yes.
So we will have another Kincaid alum coming up.
So that just means I need to book Sharpstown High
That
School
means
alums.
he doesn't book anybody because I'm the Kincaid
Apollos,
alum.
hit me up. That's
All
it
right,
for
all
us.
right,
We're
here
out
we
of here.
go.
We'll see you. Peace. Bye-bye.